From the beginning of the 1992 IMSA campaign, it appeared the race for the championship would be wide open. 3 different teams emerged as victors in the first 3 races of the year. Day, night, day. And the first car across the finish line at the 24 Hours of Daytona was the reliable 12-cylinder Jaguar piloted by Davy Jones. Then it was on to the streets of Miami, where 4-time GTP champion Jeff Brabham conquered the concrete canyons to bring his Nissan to victory. At the 12 Hours of Sebring, it was Toyota's turn. Juan Fangio spooled up his 4-cylinder Turbo Eagle Mark III and won the race by 5 full laps. But the Camel GT script was changing. At Miami, Jaguar had unveiled its newest creation, the Formula One-based XJR-14, capturing pole and setting fast lap of the race. Jones won at Road Atlanta and Mid-Ohio, and by mid-season, the team to beat was Jaguar. But suddenly the momentum began to shift. The Dan Gurney-prepared Toyotas began to flex their muscle. Starting on the streets of New Orleans, Toyota began to dominate the Camel GT Series. Pole and victory for Fangio around the Superdome. A 5-lap margin of victory on the road circuit at Watkins Glen, New York. And a 3rd consecutive triumph for Fangio at Laguna Seca, setting fastest lap. The Toyota win streak continued at Portland, but this time it was 98, driven by rookie P.J. Jones, who collected his first career GTP win. At Road America, Fangio dominated the competition with pole, fast lap, and a solid victory, clinching the first IMSA GT Manufacturers Championship for Toyota. Now, there was only the matter of the driver's title. Only Davy Jones in the XJR-14 Jaguar was in a position to contend with Fangio for the driver's crown, and then only if he could win the pole at Phoenix. But the Toyota team pulled through. Fangio's teammate P.J. Jones won the pole, locking Jones out of the hunt and clinching the driver's title for Fangio. Fangio went on to win at Phoenix, his 7th victory in 12 races, including a record 3 straight Toyota 1-2 sweeps. Today, the 1992 season comes to a close at Del Mar as ESPN presents the Vons Grand Prix of San Diego. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. We have sunny skies and a light breeze at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Perfect conditions as we prepare to bring down the curtain on the 1992 Camel GT season at the Vons Grand Prix of San Diego. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to Southern California. Now, in case you think that Toyota, having already clinched the drivers' and manufacturers' titles for 92, makes this race an anticlimax, think again. For the last 2 years in a row, Juan Fangio and Dan Gurney's Toyota team have been winners here. And over in the Toyota pits, from the merest gopher all the way up to the big man Dan himself, Toyota wants to go out as winners. Then there is Nissan. Their home base in Vista, California is just a few miles away from this, their home track, yet they have never won here. And there is Jaguar, completing their 5th season as a factory team in Camel GT competition without either a driver's or manufacturer's championships to show for it. They are just a few of the stories that will be unfolding in this last race of the season. With me to call it for you, ESPN road racing analyst David Hobbs. David, we found out in qualifying just how much some guys want to win this race.
They certainly do, Bob. And it's an unfortunate but true fact of racing that a driver is always remembered by his last race. And as it's nearly 4 months to the next one, there's plenty of time for thought. On the pole, Fangio in his Toyota, 99.9 miles an hour. That's near enough to 100 for me, which around this circuit is absolutely extraordinary. Alongside him, Davy Jones in the Jaguar. Davy got off to such a good start this year, and then he faded. Jaguar have won this race twice. Toyota have won it twice. Both those drivers are absolutely desperate to get their cars home for the 3rd time here at Del Mar. And right behind them is Prix Cobb in the Mazda GTP car. An amazing qualifying performance for that new car.
All right, now let's look down to the grid and check on last-minute preparations for this race. First, one of our 2 pit reporters for today's event. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Juan Manuel Fangio has absolutely dominated this season, but he had to win a championship in the process. Now he comes here to Del Mar. All the championship stuff is taken care of. So the question becomes, Juan, is there anything left in you and this Toyota that we have not seen yet, that now with everything squared away, are you going to show us some stuff we haven't seen?
Well, the car is already running very good. We make the pole position, and the car in the warm-up, it was also running very strong. I think we have a great car for the race. Anyway, I think it will be a long race, a lot of traffic involved, and so So we need to be a little caution. And anyway, I think we will have very good competition. Everybody wants to win the last race of the season.
It'll be interesting to see, with the restraints off, just how fast this gentleman can go. Now let's go across the pit lane to my colleague, Chris Economaki.
All right, we're here at the Davy Jones Bud Jaguar. He's getting a last-minute lash up here, and as soon as the plumbing that a driver has to hook up to is remarkable in today's Grand Touring prototype racing. There's fire hoses, oxygen, and so forth. Davy, you're getting ready for this. How important is this race to you?
Well, Chris, I think it's very important as far as the whole Bud Light Jaguar team. It's the championship's decided. Really, I would just like to put in a nice victory for all the boys on the Bud Light Jaguar team. In my mind, they're champions, and I'd like to do this one for them, just to have a nice off season to concentrate on next year.
Well, you have a good drive, and back to the booth.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. There is one piece of business still unresolved in 1992, the Camel Lights Manufacturers Championship. As you can see, Acura and Buick just 11 points apart, and that issue will be resolved today here at Del Mar. There are 2 Acura Spices in the field, 2 Buick Kudzus to challenge them. And we are just moments away from the green flag. Stay with us. We are at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, famed for thoroughbred horse racing throughout the years, but today given over to the mechanical horsepower of the world's fastest sports cars. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Vons Grand Prix of San Diego from Del Mar is brought to you by Nissan. It's time to expect more from a car. By Toyo Tires. No matter what you drive, we've got you covered from H to Z. By Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Norwegian Cruise Line. Elegant, yes. Stuffy, never. Back at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, here are our race conditions. A warm 78 degrees with a light breeze off the Pacific. Much more humid than it's been in practice and qualifying, but virtually no chance of rain. And it will be a very, very hot and slick racetrack as the day wears on. The course is laid out on the parking lots and service roads of the Del Mar Horse Racetrack. David Hobbs climbs aboard with Fermin Velez to give us a look around.
There's the vital stats. 1.62 miles, 10 turns, and no elevation change, but it is a bit on the bumpy side. Now we're in with Fermin Velez and his Camel Lights. He crosses the start-finish line in 5th gear at about 150 miles an hour and brakes down to 2nd gear for turn 1. Going through that left-hander, we'll see a lot of spinning there this afternoon. Up through the gearbox. Comes this fast left-hand sweep, as you can see, completely blind from the driver. Again, he's hard on the brakes while the car's going left, and he wants to go sharp right here in 2nd. Stays in 2nd through this complex. Wants to make a good exit here because he's now got the back straight, the fastest part of the course, and a lot of overtaking is going to go on as they come into the next right-hand corner. Well-defined corner. We'll see a lot of overtaking here this afternoon, down to 2nd gear again. Needs to make a nice tight apex there. As he goes through this complex, stays in the same gear. Look at all these corners, absolutely blind. If anybody has trouble or spins around one of these corners, it's very difficult. The driver has no idea. Very important for good flag passing here. Up to 4th gear, long, fast sweep here. Up to 5th. The road constantly moves here. Again, still blind. Another place here where we're going to see some overtaking into this chicane complex. Down to 2nd gear again. Just clips the curve there. This is the one he wants to get right. This last exit here as he goes up to the gearbox. Short shifts there into 3rd. Back to the start-finish straight again. 2nd fastest part of the track as he crosses the finish for another flying lap.
It is one exciting racetrack. As you can see, the starting grid is now formed up, and we're ready for that most important command from Dennis Eck, President and CEO of the Vons Company.
Drivers, start your engine!
The engines are coming to life, and as the drivers get set to go out and warm them up along with the tires, let's take a look at how they will line up for this finale of the 92 Camel GT season with the help of our Sears Die-Hard starting grid. On the pole for the 6th time this year, Juan Fangio II and his Toyota Eagle, with a record lap at 99.908 miles an hour. Next to him, the man with whom he has battled all year long for the title, Davy Jones in the Jaguar XJR-14. On row 2, P.J. Jones and another Toyota Eagle Mark III who could have won the Phoenix event, but he was hit from behind by another driver. That man will start right alongside in the 4-spot, Bryce Cobb in a Mazda RX 792P. On row 3, John Paul Jr., a former series champion, will be in a Chevrolet GTP. The small block Chevy engine lives in Camel GT combinations. In the 6th spot will be Jeff BRABHAM, the 4-time and recently deposed series drivers champion in a Nissan NPT 91C, the 8th different version of race car Nissan has put on the track this year. Row 4 will be Tom KENDALL, racing in his native California in a 6.5-liter V8-powered Chevrolet GTP. Next to him will be David Tennyson, the series revelation among drivers in a 6.3-liter powered Spice GTP race car. On row 5 will be Pete HALSMER in the 2nd Mazda RX 792P, next to Frenchman Francois Migaud, sharing with Jeff Perner in a Chevrolet GTP car. On row 6, the only pole sitter in the Camel Lights category this year, Parker Johnstone. For 2 years now, the series champion in an Acura Spice. Next to him, Fermin Velez, the former C2 world champion, sharing with Andy Evans in a Buick Kudzu DG2. On row 7, sister cars for both of the men on the previous row. Ruggiero Magrati sharing with Wayne Taylor in another Acura Spice. Charles Morgan and Tommy Riggins in a sister car to the Velez Evans machine of another Buick Kudzu. On row 8, Mario Heighton from Switzerland shares with Rob Wilson in a BMW Erd. Next to him, Dominic Dobson, the IndyCar and sports car veteran, sharing with David Roca in a Buick Spice. On row 9 will be Jim Pace and New Jersey's Tom Hessert in another Buick-powered machine, next to Carlos Bobeda and Paul Devin in a Buick-powered Spice. And on row 10, Tim McAdam will leave off, sharing with 3-time Camel Lights champion Jim Downing in a Buick-powered machine. The top 3 drivers in the field bettered the year-old qualifying record held by Wayne Taylor. There is the number 44 Norwegian Cruise Lines Scandia Buick Kudzu to be driven by Fermin Velez from Barcelona, Spain, and American Andy Evans. I said there were 2 Buicks in the field to oppose the Acuras. These are the 2 Buicks I was talking about, the Norwegian Cruise Line machines. In all, there is a fleet of 6 Buicks out here to try to wrest the Camel Lights Manufacturers Championship away. One more pace lap to go. We'll take a quick timeout and return to Del Mar. We are back at Del Mar. Lights are off on the Nissan pace car. The number 99 Toyota of Juan Fangio leads the Jaguar number 2 of Davy Jones. Number 98 is P.J. Jones, son of the great Parnelli Jones, who has had an absolutely spectacular year in the Camel GT Series. His first full season, he challenged for the championship. He won at Portland, might have won at Phoenix, but for contact with Bryce Cobb's Mazda, and he is out here to win in the season finale, along with the rest of the field. The pace car is off. The Jaguar to the outside, the Toyota to the inside. The first corner is a sharp left-hander. Jim Sidley gives the green, and we are underway.
Jaguar slips into second. P.J. Jones remains in third.
And the Mazda of Bryce Cobb. I'm with you, David. That was a tremendous qualifying performance by Bryce Cobb. Visiting this racetrack with that brand new car for the first time, they really dialed it in a hurry.
Oh, number 63, that's the Downing car. Into the wall, right in front of the booth.
There you see Tim McAdam sharing with Jim Downing. He came around the corner, overcooked it just a little bit, nosed it into the wall. Now he's pointed in the right direction. The engine refires, and in a cloud of tire smoke, a very angry Tim McAdam is once again underway.
A little bit of debris on the track there, so the drivers will need to be a bit careful of that on the following time round. There we see Fangio, Jones.
This is more than half a lap away. There goes Fangio. There is Davy Jones, originally from Portland, New York, now living in Lake Tahoe.
There's no doubt about it, this Toyota has proven to be an absolutely outstanding car in IMSA competition this year. Not only has he got the pole position here and won a series of incredible victories, but of course in 4 of the tracks they go to where the Indy car goes as well, these GTP cars are in fact quicker than the Indy cars, which is a pretty sobering thought.
The only straightaway worthy of the name here on the racetrack. This used to be the start-finish line. You see the first 3 pass and review. Here comes the beautiful silver Mazda of Bryce Cobb, and then David Tennyson and that Chevy-powered Spice.
David Tennyson has made a dynamic getaway from... he was down in 8th place on the grid, and he's disposed of Jeff BRABHAM, Tom KENDALL, and John Paul.
You saw the number 44 car go through your picture, the leader in the Camel Lights class, Fermin Velez, well ahead of the V6 Acuras, back up on the point. The 99 of Fangio leads Davy Jones and PJ Jones.
All pretty evenly matched. You can see there as those cars go through the chicane. It's pretty bumpy here in the parking lot, and a big bump there as they approach this turn 1 area.
The two-time defending race winner, Juan Fangio, 35 years of age, looking for his 8th victory of the year. Davy Jones seeking his 4th. Could Fangio win 8 victories, would be second in a single season all time in IMSA competition to Jeff Brabham's 9 victories with the Nissan back in 1988. Up around 160 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes. Sharp right-hander. Over the years, this has been a very treacherous part of this racetrack. Lots of spins.
Well, the road surface here, of course, as it's just used as a parking lot in ordinary life, of course, has pools of oil left from under cars that are parked and such like, and a lot of dust out of the atmosphere here from the beach. Number 12, that's Tommy Kendall.
Looks like he spun it in that, what used to be the first corner, the part of the track I was just mentioning.
Spun it at the end of the back straight, what used to be the front straight. Seems to be a bit off the pace anyway.
Tommy Kendall with that Jim Miller machine out of Wixom, Michigan, Miller and Pratt Engineering, absolutely electrified this series a year ago. He was teamed in a 2-car effort with Wayne Taylor. Taylor took the pole and set the fast lap here. Here's another look at what happened to Tommy under braking.
Just got away from him braking. A lot of the drivers here put a lot of braking on the back of these cars, on the back wheels, because it helps them rotate into the corners. If you have the front wheels locked up, obviously you lose steering. But you have to be very, very careful if you overload the brakes on the back of the car. That's the sort of thing that happens.
Now there is a number 45 Camel Lights machine at park. That is Prix Cobb in the number 77 car, and he's got someone else's bodywork. The number 5 machine of France, it's John Paul Jr.
John Paul Jr. Oh, dear, David Tennyson's lost his front.
My goodness. In fact, I think that's Tennyson's bodywork on the left.
Bodywork.
You see the field filtering through while Prix Cobb, who has lost the rear wing on that Mazda prototype, tries to get straightened out. We understand from the turn workers there is water on the racetrack at the end of that straightaway, and that is one of the fastest points on the track.
Oh dear, that has just decimated our field somewhat. Prix Cobb was looking for a good result this afternoon in that Mazda prototype, as was David Tennyson, who had made a dynamite start. Prix Cobb's day is done, I'm afraid.
Meanwhile, up front, number 99, Juan Fangio. This is the point where all the action took place. He makes his way through, followed by Davy Jones, about a 4-car length lead. Juan Fangio, nephew of the 5-time Formula One world champion. And now a father in his own right, a little 1-year-old boy. Also Juan Fangio, but not Juan Fangio III. Back to what you said about this Toyota, David, it is remarkable when you consider that Jaguar has raced 2 different kinds of cars this year, the 12-cylinder normally aspirated machine in the endurance races, and the turbocharged car, the 3.5-liter Formula One engined Jaguar the rest of the season, the car that won the World Sports Car Championship a year ago. Tim McAdams again. Right in front of the leader.
Nearly took the nose off the leader. Another case in point there. Looks like he's got too much braking on the back too. Yeah, well, of course, the other thing about this Toyota is it's only a 4-cylinder, 2.5 litres. The 8-cylinder Jaguar goes inside him. That, of course, Fangio had to back up a little bit there when Tim McAdams spun in front of it.
Well, my point was that while everybody else is running other different variations of car, in fact, Nissan has trotted out 8 different kinds of race car this year in 12 races coming into this 13th round of the championship. The Toyota team has run the same chassis all year long. Davy Jones closed up but couldn't close the deal as Juan Fangio narrowly avoided Tim McAdams. Great action in the early laps here at Del Mar, and we'll be back for more in just a moment. Back at Del Mar, the 99 of Juan Fangio, newly crowned Camel GT champion in 1992, navigates a treacherous corner at the end of the back straightaway. Just behind him, the number 2 Bud Light Jaguar of Davy Jones.
And this, of course, is where this race gets particularly tiring for these drivers. It's a 2-hour race, and they're already well and truly into lapped traffic, and they've got to pick and weave their way through in this very unforgiving track.
Let's get down to the pit lane. Ralph Shaheen has more for us.
They're working on the back end of the race car, Bob. As you can see, they have got to change the rear end section where the wing mounts to the car. They are working on a lot of different pieces back in there on Price Cobb's machine. Once they get that fixed, Price has decided to stay in the car and run for as much as he can here today. They're disconnecting all the hoses and getting ready to change this piece back here. Once they get that all set, they will take care of this and get him back out. Now, this is what happened to him at Road Atlanta as well, and it took them 17 minutes there to get this fixed and back out.
Dick St. Ives, who runs this Mazda team, says they are satisfied with their first season. It took 4 races into the year before they got their new Lee Dykstra design creation on the racetrack. It's a beautiful car, but they have struggled to develop it at the track, and that is probably the most difficult thing to do with a new car.
But they certainly seem to have got it dialed in there. Price Cobb set a pretty dynamic speed with that car around this difficult little track yesterday afternoon in qualifying, and that was very disappointing. We don't know what happened, but there was obviously some sort of melee down there between himself and, I guess, David Tennyson.
Race leader Juan Fangio. There is your Camel Lights class leader, the number 44 machine of Fermín Vélez of Spain. You're on board now with Vélez.
This is the right-left complex leading onto the back straight now, where we saw so much action already. Up to about 150 miles an hour, 5th gear in the Camel Light, 6th in the GTP cars under the Bridgestone Bridge. This is where we've seen those 2 cars spin already. Good tight apex there. You want to make a good tight apex everywhere here to be able to use every bit of available road. On the other hand, making these tight apexes, it's very easy to just clip the concrete, and that's the end of the story. I mean, this very difficult bit here where the road sweeps left, and then right, then left again over a little rise edge, just a bit of a crown, up to again about 140, hard on the brakes into this chicane. There used to be that wall there, as you said. Again, he needs to make this little complex right here because it's leading onto the pit, what is called the pit straight. Of course, we know it's not straight, but it is a very fast part of the track, and you need to get good momentum if you want to pass somebody into turn 1, and of course, to do a good lap time.
There's the race leader, Juan Fangio, whistling by with Davy Jones in close attendance. There's Tommy Kendall, who's already gone around once and about to be lapped by the leaders.
Yeah, Tommy Kendall, if you remember last year, Tommy Kendall set a blistering pace here at this race, just not in the same league this year as they were last year with these Chevrolet-powered cars. But such has been the technological pace of development this year in IMSA that the Toyota and the Jaguar have just absolutely gone on by leaps and bounds everywhere we've gone. The lap speeds have been way up. To be lapping the leader of Camel Lights this early on is staggering.
Within the first 10 laps of the race leaders, the battle for the race lead, we should say, has enveloped the leader of the Camel Lights class. The Camel Lights car is smaller, lighter in weight than the big GTP prototypes, as Fermín Vélez gives you a graphic demonstration of the speed differential between the unlimited prototypes of the GTP class and the Camel Lights class, which are limited to a maximum of 3.4 liters if you're in a Buick, 3 liters in the Acura V6.
It's so difficult for these drivers.
Leader in the pits, Juan Fangio in the pits. This is very much unscheduled. I wonder if he picked up a puncture. And they're not going for the tires, they're going for the cockpits.
Ooh. Big problem.
Dan Gurney standing with jacket open at the front of the car.
Having a look at the car. Obviously something's wrong with the rear. It could be gearbox selection that he's looking at there right in the middle of the back of the car, which is where the selectors go off to the cockpit. Could be something like that. Obviously, if it was an engine problem, I'd have thought they'd have had the back open.
Gary Martin is the crew chief on this car. IMSA inspectors now looking in.
We know his brake lights were working because we saw them come in. There we see our new leader, Davy Jones.
And he is about to put a lap on Fangio. The next right-hand corner leads onto the pit straight and the start-finish line. Now Fangio goes back out again.
Now the mantle falls to P.J. Jones, Fangio's young teammate, to try and rest this race for Toyota. As the 99 car pulls out, just in front of or just behind the Jaguar.
The number 4 car just ahead is Francois Migaud of France. Familiar to fans of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, seen annually here on ESPN. He is sharing with Jeff Perner from Glens Falls, New York.
Ooh, smoke out the Toyota there, right. We didn't see that. We didn't see. Nothing seemed to be wrong as far as we were concerned before.
Let's see if we can learn more now on the Toyota situation from Chris Economaki in the pits.
Well, Dan Gurney and his men are huddling here. They're not quite sure what's wrong with the car. They think it's a hole in something because the water coming out of it was like steam. He's out there. They're having a high-level meeting right here trying to figure out precisely what the problem is so they can bring it back in and fix it. Right now, it's consternation.
Well, as I was saying earlier on, it is a pretty staggering power plant in this car. It's 2.2 litres, 4 cylinders, and turns out around about 750, somewhere between 750 and 950 horsepower, depends who you believe. But whatever it is, it's got plenty. It's got enough. Let's put it that way.
They do it with massive turbocharging. An Indy car uses about 45 inches of mercury in terms of boost measurement. This car cranks out about 125 inches, 3 times what an Indy car uses at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
A very impressive piece of kit, and of course, as you can see, the car has got lots of little spoilers on the front fenders there. It's got a big triple plane rear wing. It's got lots and lots of downforce, and it's got the essential thing to carry that downforce, which is lots of horsepower.
Just ahead, Pete Halsmer in the sister car to Price Cobb's Mazda. Halsmer presently being shown in 5th position. Here comes the race leader, Davy Jones. He will catch up to Halsmer as well. That tells you something about the blistering pace Jones is laying down in that Jag. Jones now leads, followed by P.J. Jones. It's going to be tough keeping up with the Jones boys this afternoon. Son of Parnelli Jones, P.J. Jones, raised on desert racing and dirt track midgets and sprint cars, has had a terrific 1992, a victory at Portland, 2 poles, a fast race lap, 5 top 3 finishes, and a shot at the title won by his teammate Juan Fangio. He is by far the outstanding rookie of the 1992 IMSA Camel GT season. P.J. Jones very much in the running for a victory today. 4 wins in Firehawk street stock racing, cutting his teeth on asphalt racing, 19 top 10 finishes and 24 starts in his IMSA racing career. There he is, running second right now to Davy Jones in the Jaguar, closing up on the number 78 silver and black Mazda rotary-powered race car of Pete Halsmer.
There's no doubt about it. Those Mazdas with the 4 rotors just sound unbelievable, and even with the IMSA silencing requirements, they still sound absolutely incredible, just like the car, of course, that won Le Mans a couple of years ago sounded.
P.J. Jones closing up on the left Camel Lights machine, number 9 car, Jim Pace and Tom Hessert. The man he wants is 2 cars up the road, Davy Jones.
Well, that stop obviously will have lost him nearly a lap, 1, and of course 2 if it is chucking out water. Does not say a lot for its long-term hopes in this race. Whistles past the pits into turn 1, hard on the brakes. Car not twitching around too badly at all. The Jaguar is the one that seems to be more affected by the bumps than any other car here. It looks very hard. I watched it go into a couple of the corners. It certainly seems to be giving Davy Jones plenty to think about.
To the back straightaway. There is Davy Jones. You see the gap back to the second place car of P.J. who last raced here at Del Mar back in 1988 in a GTO sedan in IMSA competition. So he is not as intimately familiar with the racetrack as Davy Jones is in the Jag up front.
I think P.J. Jones is actually stealing back just a little bit of his lead. Seems to be moving up to him slightly.
Now there is Jeff Brabham, the 4-time series champion, a man who has rewritten the record book since 1988 in IMSA Camel GT competition. Originally from Australia, now living in Lantana, Florida. It has been a struggle for the Nissan team this year. Jeff is very in front of it. Whoa, 99, Fangio back in the pits. Evidently problems continue. No driver has ever completed a sweep, a pole, fast lap, and race victory here. That trend will evidently continue. Here's Chris Economaki.
Juan Manuel Fangio, the new champion, is in the pits. The computer here that has 17 readings on it from 17 different sensors. They've pinpointed the problem. He's turned the engine off. Let me see if I can't go over here and perhaps get a word with him. The mechanics are working on the car. I don't think Fangio himself knows what the problem is, but the mechanics are working. Let me see if I can... No, he can't talk. Okay, back to you, Bob.
Well, evidently we have a difference of opinion between the telemetry and the race car itself. It wants to run, but the telemetry wants to say it's too hot.
Well, that's telemetry for you, and unfortunately it's usually right.
Now there's the Toyota of P.J. Jones going
Definitely
around.
catching up with the Jaguar by now, I'm sure. He's not as far behind Davy Jones. There's Davy Jones just whistling around that left-hander in pit lane.
Make the gap about 1 second, I reckon. Big crowd on hand here. 76,000 people showed up for this race last year. The numbers today look just about that big. Davy Jones leads the way over P.J. Jones. Still very early in the Bonds Grand Prix of San Diego. Stay with us. Back at Del Mar, there will be no hat trick of victories for the new champion, Juan Fangio. Chris Economaki is with him now.
Okay, there's Juan Manuel Fangio. He's out of the car, talking with his partner, Dan Gurney. Juan, a tough break for you. You know what happened?
We're overheat. The engine was feeling very good, and the chassis also. It was just overheat. We have a leak, and we stopped.
Dan Gurney, what does this mean vis-a-vis P.J. Jones? Any new strategy? Are they giving the word to stand on it?
Well, I know he knows what to do, and we're going to see if he can do it.
Okay, better luck with P.J. Jones. That's half of the Dan Gurney team out of the race.
I tell you what, if I were a race driver, the man I would want to drive for is Dan Gurney. Mr. No Pressure.
Well, he knows what to do, and he knows how to do it. I guess we'll just leave him up to it. Yeah, the first time I met Dan Gurney was in the paddock at Silverstone back in 1963 when Graham Hill had just overtaken Jimmy Clark on the outside of the last lap. I've known him ever since then, so what's that, nearly 30 years, and he was great to me then. I was just a lad in a Formula Junior, and of course he was in the Formula One race. And he's still just a great guy to know and talk to, and just so friendly.
A real gentleman. Davy Jones is the leader now.
Davy Jones just getting caught out there on the inside of the 5 car, was he? That's just what he does not need to be held up.
He's stuck behind the 5 of John Paul Jr.
Badly stuck behind him, which is allowing PJ to really close up on him. I thought John Paul would probably let him through at that corner, but he didn't. Now, this is a big opportunity now for P.J. Jones. Still having trouble going around the 48 Acura Spice there.
John Paul Jr., the 1982 Camel GT champion, driving a Porsche. Now is driving this Chevy-powered number 5, a Spice chassis. One of the customer cars in IMSA Camel GT racing.
John Paul's had a bit of a bitty career over the last few years, driving a little bit here and a little bit there, but this year he's certainly come back to life, and this is probably the best car he's driven all year, and he certainly has been putting it to good use. In practice and qualifying, he was very good on Friday, but he must be just irritating Davy Jones somewhat now.
Davy's going to the inside, he's 3 wide. That time Paul was taking slower traffic, and Davy tried to go around Paul.
Well, of course, they're mixed up too with Thurman Velez, who is leading the Camel Lights the Camel Lights division. And of course, Buick want every point they can get this afternoon. It's very difficult on the tight confines of a street like this, where you're averaging nearly 100 miles an hour. I mean, obviously the driver's main intent is to look out the front of the car, but when you're Thurman Velez, you're leading the champion, you're leading your division, you really need to look out the back as well, because these guys, it's the second time he's been lapped already this afternoon.
See that Chevy just able to give Davy Jones enough of a problem that Jones can't get around.
Yeah, and he's just not giving him an inch.
John Paul was a surprise second-place finisher in this race a year ago, driving a Pontiac-powered machine. And he was in the top 5 the year before that as well. So he has every right to get out there and run as hard as he possibly can. There's just not an awful lot of places to get around a car that's anywhere near equal to yours. Take a look there, John Paul.
There's an art, a very big art, and an important art in racing, in letting people around you without losing much time yourself. And just at the moment, JPJ seems to be not putting much use to that art. I think he could let Davy through if he tried.
Well, they are giving him the blue passing flag.
Oh, he knows he's there, all right. And Davy, of course, knows that he knows he's there, but he doesn't want to go and knock the nose off the Jag. The old Jag getting a bit loose there on exit from that corner. The Spice chassis, of course, is a good chassis for this sort of racetrack. We've seen the last 2 years, Spice Chevrolets have been on the pole, set fastest lap, so it's not like this is going to be some laydown. I mean, John Paul's car is very, very competitive.
The rush of technology in IMSA Camel GT racing is like that in Formula One. The series is in many ways unlimited. Jaguar came out with this all-carbon fiber Formula One V8 engine XJR 14, and everybody thought, oh boy, they have really moved the goalposts on everybody. But just a few races later, after Jaguar won pole, fast lap, and race victories with Davy Jones at the wheel, along came Toyota and one-upped them. In recent races, Toyota has finished 1-2. Now, never before in Camel GT competition has one team finished 1-2 in successive races. The Toyotas did it 3 times at Laguna Seca, Portland, and Road America.
And absolutely cleaned the opposition at Road America. Jeff Brabham was 3rd, and he was 2 laps down on the leading duo. Pretty staggering display of performance up at Road America.
Finally, Davy Jones gets by.
Now, of course, PJ Jones has got to get around him now.
Interesting to see now if the Jaguar can pull away from that Chevy-powered machine. There is the number 78 of Pete Halsmer. His teammate Price Cobb is back out on the racetrack with a single rather than a double-planed rear wing. We're not sure whether that's because they didn't have any more double rears or if that's just the rear plane that Price Cobb chose to go with. Pete Halsmer back out. But he is at least 2 laps down now.
Disappointed that Cobb is out because they had obviously done something to the setup of his car or his engine that had given him a bit more speed. That is a new car this year, so obviously they were obviously ecstatic, I would imagine, that the car had done so well in qualifying. Disappointing that they got pushed out in what was obviously some sort of driver.
Oh, he's still in the race. Cobb is out on the racetrack.
I know he is, but I mean he's many laps down now, so. And the car was obviously turning in some extremely hot laps. Davy Jones about to go around Tim McCallum, who's had a fairly eventful afternoon so far, and at least 2 spins that we know of.
There's the number 45 Camel Lights machine going around 78 Pete Halsmer. Now that's a Camel Lights car going around a GTP machine. Halsmer must have a problem.
Oh yeah, he's pulled over. He's obviously got a problem of some sort.
I think Ralph Shaheen can tell us more from the pits. Ralph?
Bob, you're absolutely right about the single plane wing that they put on Bryce Cobb's car. That is all they had left over. That is the wing that the car was originally supposed to run with. The biplane wing that they started with was the 92 variation, which they'd hoped to run. Now, Bryce Cobb is back out, but Pete Halsmer has been having problems with his fuel light. Has been flickering on and off. They brought him in, filled him back up, and sent him back out, and he has just pitted again. We'll check on it and get back to you.
Off comes the engine cover, and that is always bad news at the racetrack. You saw Pete Halsmer's best performance of the year. His year started out when they finally got both prototypes to the racetrack in the 4th event of the year at Road America. Halsmer was involved in a spin and flip that cracked a rib and destroyed the car. So he's had a particularly difficult baptism with the new Mazda RX 92B. Davy Jones remains the leader in the state-of-the-art Jaguar XJR 14. Fermin Velez paces the Camel Lights cars as well. And we'll be back for more of the Vaughn's Grand Prix of San Diego. Back at Del Mar, California, Fermin Velez of Barcelona, Spain, leads the Camel Lights contingent, racing for their own points, their own championship. Parker Johnstone has already locked up the driver's title, and he did it at Phoenix, Arizona in the most recent race, where he had a very controversial collision with this man, Fermin Velez, at the pit exit. Velez needed to score heavily in that race in order to prevent Parker from clinching the championship, thereby bringing it to this race at Del Mar, but they came together. Velez was absolutely furious. He was throwing rocks at Parker Johnstone from the trackside as he went by. He thought it was deliberate, he said later. Parker Johnstone said it was just a racing accident. I had the inside line for the corner.
And there, in fact, you see the first 3 in Camel Lights. 44 here. The 4 car in there is Francois Migo in a GTP. There's the 2nd place car, and there's 3rd place, the Acura Spice, just right behind it. So these guys are covered with a blanket at the moment. Parker Johnston should be all right for manufacturer points here. If he runs in 3rd, that'll give him 12 points. Fermin Velez will get 20 for the win, and that won't be just quite enough. That'll be 3 short.
There you see Charles Morgan in the 2nd place car in Camel Lights. This is the team car, the sister car to the one Fermin Velez is driving. This unique paint scheme on the cars was designed by automotive artist Randy Owens, familiar to many racing fans and art collectors.
They certainly are colorful cars.
These are kudzu chassis built in the shops of Jim Downing in Atlanta, Georgia, designed by Sam Garrett. Very, very affordable racing in the Camel Lights class, using Buick 3.4-liter engines. Very competitive with the standard in the class for the last 2 or 3 seasons, the Acura V6.
Both of them getting around Francois Migo in the number 4 car. And there you see the Acura Spicers coming up, the 49, the 48 car, and the 83 car of Jeff Brabham, 4-time national champion.
Jeff Brabham running around in the 8th different car, the Nissan NPT 91C. This car uses a single turbo instead of the twin turbos that the car has been using most of the year. Thus, it gets a new designation. Technology continues to evolve, and the Nissan team, no different. Ralph Shaheen took a look at the latest trick up Nissan's sleeve. Here's a look.
For the past 3 seasons, the Nissan GTP team has absolutely dominated the IMSA Camel GT wars, claiming the championship in 1989, 90, and 91. However, here in 1992, they have found themselves struggling to stay up with the leaders. With the 1993 season just on the horizon, Nissan has gone back to the drawing board. We had a chance to talk with Kaz Kastner about the new project.
The P35 testing's gone terrific. We're terribly, terribly pleased about that, and particularly because it's built as an endurance car, even though it's a sprint series other than the long endurance races like Le Mans, Daytona, Sebring, that kind of thing. The big difference is the engine package. It's a 12-cylinder engine that is designed and built in Japan. Our responsibility is the complete design and build of the chassis and bodywork and so on, all of the testing to be done in this country. P35 is primary use now is going to be for the 24-hour race at Daytona. What races that we'll run with it, if we run it, where we run it, that we'll just have to see how the schedule is worked out.
It will be interesting to see if Nissan can regain its dominance in the IMSA series. If the past performances of this team are any indication, the rest of the competition better start looking over its shoulder.
There is the present number 83 Nissan, Jeff Brabham, the NPT 91C. The race record for average speed, 83.315 miles an hour, set a year ago by Juan Fangio. The average race speed to this point, 92.75 miles an hour. That's the pace being set by Davy Jones, who is in a few moments closing up to pass this car, believe it or not. There comes Jones in the number 2 Bud Light Jaguar. This Nissan dominated the series, or this Nissan team dominated the series the last 4 seasons. Suddenly, even though they're going 2 seconds a lap on average faster at every racetrack the series visits, they're finishing 3rd and 4th and 5th.
Well, exactly what I said to Kaz Kastner up at Road America. I said, you know, how are things going? He said, well, we've done our bit. We're 2 seconds a lap quicker than we were last year. We said, unfortunately, the Toyota's 4 seconds a lap quicker. And, you know, there's a big time spread there. Not so big here. But even so, this car, the Jaguar of Davy Jones, is a very, very high-tech car with a Formula 1 engine, developing about probably a little bit less than the Formula 1 would do, with obviously with longer races in mind, but probably still up around about 650 of good horsepower. The Nissan there with probably 750, but of course only at the top end. Coming up against the Camel Lights leader, Fermin Velez. He's going to let at least one of them through, but only one.
And that's not his fault. He can't just leap straight up in the air. He's got to find enough racetrack to get out of the way.
And there's certainly, as you can see here, nowhere to go. You can't put yourself out of the way because the whole circuit is ringed by these concrete walls. However, Davy gets by him on the main straight there pretty easily.
David just described the mechanical diversity between the Nissan and the Jaguar. As the sanctioning body, it's IMSA's job to try to create a level playing field. They do so with a weight to displacement scale. With a more powerful car, you get more weight to carry around. The lighter cars are the less powerful ones. The idea is that everyone runs at about the same rate. Of course, you might think that that's just about impossible to do, and perhaps it is, but it has worked well in the last few seasons. 1993 is looking like it's going to be a very good year for IMSA indeed. The action continues with Davy Jones on the point. We'll be right back. Back in Del Mar, California, Davy Jones of the Bud Light Jaguar XJR 14 is leading the way, slowly drawing away from the Toyota of 2nd place, P.J. Jones. Down in the pits, Chris Economaki can perhaps tell us more about the Jaguar strategy.
You're looking at Tony Dow, the team manager of the Tom Walkinshaw Racing Jaguar that's leading the race. Tony, Slow cars up front, fast cars behind you. You're leading unexpectedly. Your battle plan, has it changed since the start of the race?
No, I kind of thought we'd be leading by now, Chris.
You figured it out, huh? Okay. Is he extending himself to his fullest?
No, not at all. No, very comfortable.
You're an unflappable Englishman. Good luck to you. Tony Dow. Can't get much out of him.
It's nice to have somebody that's so talkative when you go down to the pits, isn't it? Good old Tony there, just a mine of information.
An Englishman like unto yourself, mon cher. Now let's see if we can find out what's happening in the Mazda camp. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Bryce, your first visit to pit lane was due to an incident on the racetrack, and now you're back in for more mechanical problems. Is this still a teething development situation with the car that has finally put you out?
No, I don't think so. It's not a problem we've ever had before. All throughout practice, the car ran flawlessly, and certainly for at least as long as we were running just then. From the morning warm-up, we put on some new brake rotors, and from the start of the race, I noticed there was a problem. I could feel pulsing and some real oddities in the brakes. So I thought it was only a matter of time. And when the pedal finally went to the floor, I decided it was time to come in.
Certainly don't want to be dealing with no brakes on a street circuit, Bob.
Right you are. There's the other Mazda. This is Pete Halsmer. You saw that plume of flame from the exhaust pipe. That was the biggest single problem the Mazda team had bringing this new car to the racetrack. It creates exhaust temperatures of some 1,000 degrees, much hotter than the other cars. As a result, it was burning up the bodywork. So once they conquered that, they could bring this Mazda out, and it is getting more and more competitive with each race. Speaking of Mazda, Ralph Shaheen took a closer look at how the team travels with both style and efficiency. Here's his report in a track fact. Track facts are brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
Over the course of a season, each of Mazda's RX-7 92Ps will log some 6,300 racing miles. However, there are two other vehicles that play a very important part in Mazda's racing effort. Transporter number 1 is basically a shop on wheels with two cars just below the ceiling and enough fabrication and machining equipment along with spare parts to build a third race machine if they need to. Transporter number 2 is divided into 3 separate sections. It serves the team in a variety of ways. The rear third houses a complete transmission shop. The middle third is a gourmet kitchen area that handles all of the team's catering. Right in front of the kitchen is the driver locker room and a luxurious lounge area. Just like their smaller race car brothers, these big transporters will rack up their fair share of mileage on the road. However, these two will put in some 37,000 highway miles.
In case you're wondering just how much they can accomplish with those transporters, this car Pete Halsmer is driving was crashed just a week ago in Phoenix, Arizona. They completely rebuilt the car 3,000 miles away from home with just the equipment on board the transporter. Pretty amazing self-sufficiency. Now there is Davy Jones about to lap yet another car in his march through the field here. He has suffered mightily, come so close to championships for the last 2 seasons, just not able to do the deal. Right now, he would like nothing better than to finish his season on a high note with a victory. Now that he lives in California, he can call this his home track.
Certainly putting on a good display so far this afternoon, driving very carefully in this traffic. It's a difficult place, although the traffic is getting thinner by the moment. The attrition rate here this afternoon has been very strong, but it is a very tough track on cars. All these slow corners provide a lot of driveline problems, very tough even on the braking area. You see a lot of the cars bouncing around, which doesn't do the transmissions and the differentials much good, and then of course they jump all over the gas on the way out in low gears with a low final drive ratio anyway, so delivering huge amounts of torque to these very sticky rear tires, and that's what happened to David Tennyson. For one, the transmissions really take a pasting around here.
The gap is expanding. There comes the number 98 Toyota of P.J. Jones. The gap 6.7 seconds now. Davy Jones is definitely drawing away. Soon we'll be in the pit stop window when a healthy car would come in for tires. Lots of cars have been making unscheduled stops, including Parker Johnstone in the Camel Lights class.
It's one of those things that for a driver, you know, it's somewhat psychological. As long as you can see the guy that you're chasing, you've always got hope. But here, the only place that P.J. Jones can see Davy Jones now is down that long back straight. And as Davy is just leaving it, Jones, the other Jones, P.J. is just coming onto it. So it's only going to be 2 or 3 laps, and you won't be able to see him at all. And at that point, you tend to get not disoriented, but it's just not quite the same if you can't see the guy, you know.
P.J. Jones begins another lap.
But of course, he's got plenty of time yet. This race has got a long way to go, not even halfway through yet. So he could be really conserving his tyres and the car generally, ready to put on a storm at the end.
P.J. Jones is 4th in points coming in. Jeff Brabham just 7 ahead of him. Right now, he hasn't got enough to overtake him, but he can if he wins. We'll be right back. At age 28, Dwayne Davy Jones has been racing since he was 15 years old when he went to Canada because he couldn't get a license in the United States. In 1992, he has had 3 victories. A pretty good season by anyone's standards, but this year he has had to race against the dominant force of Juan Fangio II. His IMSA career has sparkled, yet for the last 3 seasons, he has struggled in vain to take the thing that he most wants, the IMSA Camel GT Championship. Last year, he was the winningest driver on tour, but came up short yet another time to Jeff Brabham. There is Davy Jones rocketing around the Camel Lights machine of Carlos Bobeda from Northridge, California. If the race were to end right now, Juan Fangio, of course, would remain champion. Davy Jones would have 177 points in firm second. Jeff Brabham would be 4 points ahead of P.J. Jones, running second in the race right now. Tommy Kendall is in the pits in the Miller Chevrolet GTP.
Tommy Kendall's been running just way off the pace this afternoon. It's just so unlike him, so he must have some sort of problem with the car.
Tommy Kendall very much in the picture for Richard Petty's NASCAR Winston Cup ride, although interest has cooled recently, Tommy reports. He would very much like to get into stock cars. The man stands about 6 feet 5 inches tall. Not the kind of guy who's going to be driving a lot of Indy cars and Formula One machines. A great personality, great part of the Chevrolet racing family, and he would be a real gift to the Winston Cup Series.
He is certainly a past master at driving stock-based cars. GTU champion, Trans Am, GTO, won in all those divisions of racing, and he would be very suited, I think, to NASCAR. As you say, he's really too tall. He's almost too tall for these cars. Certainly too tall for an Indianapolis-type car.
He is 26 years old, and no matter what happens this year, it's been a great year for Tommy Kendall. He got married a little bit earlier this year. He's got a new house and a great future ahead of him, despite a savage crash in Camel GT competition at Watkins Glen a year ago. Tommy is walking well, racing once again, although not racing totally up to speed today. Absolutely waxed there by the less powerful Camel Lights car of Charles Morgan, and there comes the second-place Toyota of P.J. Jones.
Yeah, so is Kendall going to pull into the pits again on this lap? He's certainly not looking too happy at the moment. No, he's going to go by the pits. P.J. Jones there having trouble getting around Charles Morgan. Managing to turn 1. Sun starting to get just a bit lower in the sky. It's always a problem here at Del Mar at this time of the year. You know, later on in the year, the sun's already low in the sky. And as the afternoon progresses, they pick up a lot of dust here. The windscreens get very badly marked here from the gravel and sand, because obviously the beach is only just a few hundred yards away. So there's a lot of sand kicking around on this track, and it definitely does a job on the windscreens. And on sunny days, which it usually is here at Del Mar, as the afternoon progresses, it gets very, very difficult.
This may be the last race here at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Plans are afoot by promoter Chris Pook to take the race to the streets of downtown San Diego. If you watched any of our America's Cup coverage here on ESPN, you know it is an absolutely beautiful city. We could race right along the waterfront, we are told. It would be something special.
Yes, I certainly don't want to give up my annual trip to San Diego.
What a learning curve this guy has had this year. His first full season in GTP competition. He is in this killer car, but he's had to learn to drive it. These cars are difficult to handle. Most of his time has been spent learning car control in off-road racing, sprints and midgets on dirt. Now he's in a high downforce, heavily turbocharged race car, totally different from anything he had ever driven before. Poles apart, if you will. And he has just excelled in it.
He certainly has adapted incredibly well to it.
Now there's the number 5 machine of John Paul Jr. we saw running in close association with the race leader Davy Jones earlier. He has parked that machine. Mechanical problems for the Milner racing car.
Oh, that is a shame, because that was probably the best car that John Paul had driven all season, taking his overall off now, or his driver's suit. So that is a shame, because he was running pretty strongly in this race. As I said before, the attrition rate here this afternoon is pretty strong. There you see him taking his cool suit off. Most of these drivers wear cool suits here. Davy Jones has certainly got one on, because it's getting a bit of a fishtail there, leaving black lines.
Davy has not pitted yet. Those tires may be taking a beating.
Well, he probably doesn't want to leave it. I mean, doesn't want to pit too early. On the other hand, he must be about due any moment now.
His car runs on Goodyear tires. He has 4 compounds available to him. The tires in dimension are slightly larger than IndyCar tires. The fronts cost $274. The rears $318. Now there's Pete Halsmer in the Mazda pits,
changing his tires, fueling up.
Figure it out. You're looking at about $1,200 worth of tire change there. Looking fairly routine.
Looks like a fairly leisurely stop to me. I don't know. It's just clearly the windscreen, which, as I say, is pretty important here this afternoon. Jack's about to go up.
Keep in mind that this is a first-year team, and teamwork in pit stops is something that really does take time and a lot of practice to perfect. The Jaguar team, at their home in Valparaiso, Indiana, has a practice pit where they work on their pit stop routines. On board now with Fermin Velez and the Norwegian Cruise Line Scandia Buick Kudzu.
Using up all that road, as I said earlier, this is a narrow track, concrete walls both sides, and it's essential to get the best out of the track that you use as much of it as possible. So you have to make good apexes and let the car drift out wide on exit to maintain as much speed. There's Tim McAdam again off the road. Well, boy, he's going to have some explaining to do to Mr. Downing, I would say, when he gets back into the pit area. That is, of course, if he goes back to the pits. He's at the other side of the track. He may just decide to go home at this point.
Well, he's not actually that far away. This is the runoff area in the chicane. There's a left turn just to the left of the race car, and at the top of your picture, the right turn, and then you are on the pit straightaway. So if Tim McAdam from Vail, Colorado can get this thing straightened up, the first spin put him into the wall, and I think damaged the front-end aerodynamics. Now we're told from the corner workers he had contact with another car.
Yeah.
He ran together with the number 17 of Carlos Bobeda, and that's what put Tim McAdam into the tire barriers. And as you can see, he cannot control the car.
There's the right rear wheel, see, is all leaning over at an angle.
I think the left rear is flat as well. Tough break for Tim McAdam. Jim Downing, the 3-time Camel Lights champion, was not able to get in the car. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here.
Here we see him coming round. That's after those long fast curves. Locks up the left front. Locks it up again, as you can see from the smoke.
Well, no contact with any other car there. You can see the right front a little bit deranged there as the bodywork
very deranged. Only runs into that tire wall. Maybe something broke when he put the brakes on.
Apologies to Carlos Bobeda. He was obviously not in that frame. And the car is stopped. What a race Tim McAdam has had. Jim Downing is his partner. And together, as you saw, they won the 12 Hours of Sebring this year with a Mazda-powered chassis. And there's the 78 of Pete Halsmer. This is just at that right-left complex at the end of the back straightaway. He's gone straight on, but he still has the fire, obviously.
Is his left front wheel out of kilter, or has it just got a bit of a mark on it? Is he... No, it's fine.
Doesn't look low at any corner.
Well, that looks all right.
He will no doubt be
ready. He had new tires on, and maybe that was what let him go down that little escape road.
49 of Parker Johnston goes underneath. Keep in mind that the GTV drivers can go the whole distance in the car alone. The Camel Lights drivers will have to make a change in a mandatory pit stop. Back at Del Mar, California, the second place car of P.J. Jones is in the pits. Chris Economaki is in the Toyota pit area.
He brings it to a beautiful stop, and the whole crew jumps over. He's getting outside tires, a clean windshield, but no refreshment for the driver. The doors are not open, so the driver is the last person they're considering here as they work on the car. There goes the windshield getting clean. These guys really know their business. tires are off. This should be a very quick stop for the son of Parnelli Jones. The longest part of a pit stop like this is putting the fuel in. There it is, and away he goes.
And Davy Jones, race leader, has spun. Davy Jones is in the chicane area, just short of the pit entrance.
And he looks like he's got a flat left front tire, has he? No.
Now he's on the line.
Whoa.
Davy Jones will no doubt pit this time around. I think that left front is flat. There's Tim McAdams' car parked in the upper left-hand corner. The pit entrance is just ahead, and the Jaguar will die for it. The front body work is all askew. Now pieces beginning to fall off the car as Davy Jones limps into the Jaguar pit. This will give P.J. Jones the opportunity to take the lead for Toyota.
New nose goes on.
See if he didn't damage the fasteners. Ralph Shaheen is in the Jag pits.
The John Jackson-led Bud Light crew has gone to work on Davy Jones' Jaguar. As you mentioned, you can see the front nose is messed up. They are going to unsnap it and pull it off. It is really the front wing area. There is like a biplane setup on that front nose. They will change that, throw the old one off. They will put the new one on, and that will put Davy Jones back out into this race. And by the way, they have been checking tire temperatures. The tires here today are reaching in excess of 240 degrees, but most teams feel that the tires will survive. The difficulty now is just getting this front nose on the car.
Meanwhile, P.J. Jones has flashed past the pit area. There you see him. We have a new race leader. P.J. Jones becomes the third different race leader of the day, following Juan Fangio and Davy Jones. And if Jones doesn't get out of the pit soon, he will risk going a lap down. Let's take another look now at what happened to Davy Jones approaching the chicane area a couple of laps ago. Second car on your screen. Whoops, looped it, and then tags the wall entering the corner.
Loop, yeah, absolutely. Only just tagged the wall with the front of the car. Well, that again, he's out of the pits again. It looked like he got too much braking on the back of that car, and as he started to turn in, it just overturned for him. It just turned in too fast, spun the car, clipped the nose on the wall.
So we have a new race leader, P.J. Jones. You see him coming up now behind Davy Jones to put him another lap down. In between them, the 44 of Fermin Velez, who remains the leader in the Camel Lights class and is fourth overall in the race right now.
An interesting battle developing in the Camel Lights because Fermin Velez is leading in the Buick-powered car, and Parker Johnston car has dropped to fourth, which means that they are within 1 point of dropping out of the lead from the manufacturer's point of view. I'm sure that Parker Johnston's got the whole situation under control, and they're playing it very, very cool. Actually, it's 1 point to being equal on points for the manufacturer's championship. They'd have to lose 2 more points to be beaten by the Buick-powered car.
Fermin Velez and Andy Evans sharing a car with 1 victory this year at Mid-Ohio, but they have been in the running all year long. Their finishes, second, fifth, second, fourth, a victory, a second, a third, and a third. It is very tight in Camel Lights, and it will no doubt be a very dramatic finish. Stay with us with more from Del Mar. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Vons Grand Prix of San Diego is brought to you by Yokohama Tires, advanced technology on wheels. And by Anheuser-Busch, who proudly brings you Family Talk. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts. Back at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, Bob Barsha, David Hobbs, Chrissy Konamaki, and Ralph Shaheen. Glad to have you with us for the final race of the Camel GT season 1992. And there is the race leader, P.J. Jones from Rolling Hills Estates, California, looking for his second victory of the season. He is almost a full lap ahead of the second place Jaguar of Davy Jones. Now, on the left of your screen, Pete Halsmer's Mazda is now officially retired. Right there, the 83 Nissan of Jeff Brabham making a routine pit stop. Now, this car shown in second place ahead of Davy Jones as it made the stop. Onto the racetrack he goes once again. The Nissan team has worked on this car so hard. They began the season with an endurance chassis known as the RC model, the R90C. Then they brought out the NPTI 91 in A and B versions, and the NPT 92 in A and B versions, and then the NPT 91C. They have downsized the engine at one time or another from 3 liters to 2.5 to shed 100 pounds of weight, as they were allowed to under the rules, using the weight to displacement system IMSA uses to try to equalize all of the different types of technology on the racetrack. Now they've gone to a single turbo, hoping to get a little better throttle response. Here comes the number 45 of Charles Morgan in the Camel Lights class, following this car, Fermin Velez in the 44 in Camel Lights. Buicks run first, second, and third in Camel Lights, and as David mentioned earlier, that means the 4th place Acura is keeping that team out in front for the Camel Lights Manufacturers Championship by just 1 point.
Doug Peterson run Comtech team is a very much of a strategic type of team. There we see Velez in his car, in his little office. You can see all the piping, as we talked earlier on about plumbing. These drivers are well and truly plumbed and radioed into these cars. In fact, that looks like one of these new helmets that pumps air around the helmet. He's also got a cool suit on with radios attached. Got more wires and things attached to the space pilot.
In the newspaper this morning, this race gave new definition to fast food. There's a McDonald's just outside the racetrack, and they were complaining that their drive-in radio hookup was picking up the radio transmissions from the race cars on the track. There's the number 49 of Parker Johnstone from Redmond, Washington, the newly crowned Camel Lights champion for the 2nd year in a row. Right now, they are shown 4th in class, behind Fermin Velez, Charles Morgan, and David Roca. This may be the last we see of these cars in Camel Lights competition. Acura, of course, is made by Honda. Honda has a whole bunch of Formula One style 3.5-liter normally aspirated engines that they don't have much to do with anymore since they're out of Formula One. You may see, in fact, I would almost guarantee you will see those engines in these cars in GTP last year. Let's get to the pits and Ralph Shaheen.
Doug, we hear that your car is slipping back a little bit, maybe back as far as 4th place. Is there something wrong with Parker's entry?
No, there's nothing wrong with Parker's car. We pitted it early to change tires. He locked up the fronts trying to pass one of the cars that was slowing him up. He's now back in 3rd place, and we only have to finish 4th to win the Manufacturers Championship for Acura. So we're playing, the car is capable of winning, but we're playing a conservative role today because the Manufacturers Championship is our goal.
And now you're getting ready to make a pit stop, and I assume a driver change as well.
Well, yes, we're pitting our 2nd car, the 48 car. We're going to change from Rogero Malgrati to Wayne Taylor, change tires, and refuel it. And then a few minutes later, we'll pit Parker's car for the last time and change drivers in it.
A cautious and conservative pace for the Acuras, Bob.
No question about it. Doug Peterson used to co-drive with Parker Johnstone in that car. He and his partner Don Erb run the Comtech Acura operation. And as I mentioned, they expect to be in GTP next year with a full-blown Honda effort. Parker Johnstone, the winningest driver in terms of percentage wins versus starts among active drivers. Parker Johnstone has won over half of his starts in Camel Lights over the last 2 seasons. He began with the team at this race 2 years ago. He has won 2 Camel Lights championships, to go with about a half-dozen national championships in other forms of racing. He, too, is a man to watch in worldwide sports car competition. There is Johnstone closing up on a GTP car, the 00, being shared by Swiss Mario Heighten and Rob Wilson from Brentford, England.
I think Mario's going to try and do the race on his own, but the temperature's gone up. As you said at the beginning of the show, the temperature is up, and so is the humidity. And he hasn't driven at all this year. The first race he's done for a year was just a week ago in Phoenix. And I think you'll probably find the confines of this tight circuit here at Del Mar a bit much. He probably will let Rob Wilson finish this race off for him. That car, of course, has got a BMW engine in it.
About to be swallowed up by Parker Johnstone. And Heighten will bring the car in. Let's watch and see if we get a driver change, or if, in fact, Mario Heighten thinks he can go.
Looks like he's going to stick it out.
Meanwhile, here is your race leader, P.J. Jones. Jones with a comfortable lead of nearly 1 lap over second place Davy Jones. Jeff Brabham of the Nissan has dropped back to third, followed by Fermin Velez leading the Camel Lights and fourth overall. Leads Davy Jones, the only 2 cars on the lead lap. Jeff Brabham in the Nissan is 1 lap down, followed by the leader in the Camel Lights class, Fermin Velez, who has yet to make his mandatory pit stop and driver change. Charles Morgan also has yet to stop. He is 3 laps down. Velez 2 laps down. The Toyota of P.J. Jones hoping to end the season with a victory for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Toyota team. Dan Gurney certainly needs no introduction to racing fans. Chris Economaki took an opportunity to spend a quiet moment with a true legend, Dan Gurney.
I'm with Dan Gurney, a man who for almost 30 years has been at the top of his form in automobile racing. Dan, congratulations on this 1992 championship in Camel GT for you, for Toyota, and for your driver, Juan Manuel Fangio. The question, of course, is how difficult was this championship to achieve?
Well, we knew several years ago that that was our objective, but at the beginning of the season, we thought, well, there isn't any way we can do it, but all we can do is keep trying, and the first race, the 24-hour race at Daytona, we finished 4th and 5th overall and 3rd and 4th in class, I believe it was. And that was a big send-off for us.
In IMSA, the races run from 24 hours down to short sprints. Doesn't that require a lot of different work on your cars and your team?
You have to have a very versatile car, and it has to be strong enough to withstand all the different circuits. We run on some circuits that some of the other guys wouldn't even attempt to run on. Very, very rough ones. It's very punishing for the drivers. I think these cars are tremendously punishing and very physical things to drive.
Toyota's in this for image making, and they want to win races. What about the pressures with Jaguar on one side of you and Nissan and all those heavy budget teams? It's a wonder your hair isn't grayer.
Well, I use some dye on it. You know, that'll always work. But you're right. I mean, it's a team that does as well as we did. First, you have to be very, very lucky, and you have to have extraordinary driving talent. But also, we have a lot of depth on this team. From the electronics aspect, which is sort of the new thing in racing, but all the way through. Our car has been extraordinarily durable, too, which is terrific. And they've done magic with a 2.1-liter 4-cylinder engine, TRD USA has.
Here you have Dan Gurney, a man at the top of his form. Thanks and good luck, Dan.
Thank you, Chris.
There you see the latest creation from the team that Dan Gurney has built. The Toyota Eagle Mark III won in its very second start ever. Could have won in its first start at Laguna Seca, California a year ago, but they were docked a 10-second stop for a pit violation, and that prevented them from winning the race. They did win the next time out at the hands of Juan Fangio. Fangio took the pole for this race. He is now out. Davy Jones took over briefly in the Jaguar, and now P.J. Jones is up front. We are now past the halfway mark. Here's our Nissan race summary. P.J. Jones is the leader. For the last 16 laps, we have had no caution flags. 2 cars on the lead lap at the moment, Davy Jones and the Jaguar being the other. The average speed still well above the race record. Now there in day-glow orange and white is Parker Johnstone, who has defended his championship in Camel Lights. The 48 car, the sister car, has already pitted and made its mandatory driver change. Anytime now, as you heard Doug Peterson say earlier, we will get Parker Johnstone into the pits to hand over to Dan Marvin from Berkeley, California, himself a former winner of this race in the Camel Lights class. The gap from first to second in Lights right now is just 4 seconds. That between Fermin Velez and Charles Morgan. Keep in mind, neither of those Buicks has stopped yet. So there is plenty of strategy and drama still to play out here at Del Mar.
Parker Johnstone about to stop, according to his team manager, Doug Peterson, and hand over the car to Dan Marvin. And then just right behind him, as we'll see when the camera opens up, is his teammate car, driven by Mel Grady and Wayne Taylor.
Johnstone, who passed up a career as a professional musician in order to become a racing driver. He and Doug Peterson are the best of friends. Everyone on that team is friendly. It's a terrific operation, very close-knit. Much like the best teams all up and down the pit lane. The Toyota crew comes to mind. The Nissan gang. The Jaguar crew. There goes Parker. There's a gap to Dominic Dobson, also in a Camel Lights car. And there is Wayne Taylor from South Africa, now living with his family in the Orlando, Florida area. The gap from first to second in lights is coming down. It's now less than 3.5 seconds. A little scrape on the front left corner of that car.
There you can see the sun shining in the driver's eyes there as they face west down this straight, and the sun forever getting lower, and they got about another 50 minutes to go or thereabouts. So the sun becomes a problem as this race goes on. Taylor having a bit of job to get around the 19 car of Dominic Dobson.
That car well back in the field, 11th overall and 5th in the Camel Lights class. P.J. Jones is the race leader over Davy Jones, and we'll be right back to Del Mar.
The new Nissan 240SX converts.
In Del Mar, California, this is the leader in the Camel Lights class, Fermín Velez of Spain, who will have to change drivers. He will give over to the team owner, Andy Evans, and watch what happens when he gets out of the car. Compare the height of the drivers.
Takes his seat out with him, of course, so that Evans can just fit in the natural seat of the car. Now they've got to do all this plugging up, of course. Luckily, these cars don't fuel up all that quickly, so it gives them just a few moments of time to get all the belts, the buckles, the radio, the air hoses, the water hoses hooked up.
You see that special black collar around the neck of Andy Evans? That's a helmet restraint device put together by Dr. Bob Hubbard of Michigan State University, an engineer who wanted to prevent the mass of the helmet from wrenching the driver's necks in the event of sudden impact. It's a collar to which cables attached. The other end's attached to the helmet, and the collar stops the helmet from jerking one way or the other in the event of a crash. Andy Evans will have to get up.
Andy Evans is trying to do something with his left hand there. He's trying to reach out to something.
Now here's the 45 car of Charles Morgan from Conway, Arkansas. He takes over the lead in the class from Andy Evans, but he has a pit stop coming as well. Jacksonville, Florida, former stock car racer Tommy Riggins will take over. Charles Morgan earlier this year tied an IMSA all-time record for successive seasons with at least one victory. They won at New Orleans, picked up another victory at Road America, and as a result, Charles Morgan has now posted at least one win in Camel Lights in 8 successive seasons.
Charles Morgan, of course, after that pit stop by their team car, the sister car of Fermín Velez and Andy Evans, he's now nearly a lap ahead of Andy Evans, who can't be all that far in front of him on the road, having just pulled out of the pits when Charles Morgan came by. But Charles Morgan, as you said himself, will have to stop within the next lap or two and change to Tommy Riggins, change the tires. Looks like it's on his way in right now.
Charles Morgan swings the machine onto the pit lane. Charles Morgan won in the Camel Lights class in the very first edition of this race back in 1987. Hoping to pick up another win today, but that will all be up to his teammate, Tommy Riggins, when they change over. There's Tommy with the seat insert.
Tommy, is he being slightly shorter than Charles Morgan, so he has to put the insert in instead of taking it out, as it was in the other car. There's the 44 car going down the long back straight, so it's just about half a lap behind the stopped car. Will he be able to go around there in time?
Meanwhile, Morgan pitting for Riggins has boosted the Parker Johnstone Dan Marvin car up into the lead in the Camel Lights race right now. But keep in mind, Parker Johnstone still has to stop. So the battle between Buick and Acura for the one remaining IMSA championship in this race, the Camel Lights manufacturer's title, rages on, and the standings are scrambled by pit stops. Now there goes Tommy Riggins.
And the other car, the 44 car, must be just going by him right now. There they are.
Ah, this should be interesting as the teammates get to the pit exit at just about the same time. Quick look over his shoulder for Tommy Riggins. Andy Evans comes right up behind him. let's make discretion. Ooh, big puff of smoke from Tommy Riggins' car.
Was that tire locking up? Was it? Oh, the car looks very squirrely.
Those are cold tires. Tire warmers, such as we see in Formula One, are not allowed in IMSA competition.
Big tire lock up there into the very first corner.
Well, things look all right now for Tommy Riggins, but he's still going fairly slowly.
He's getting up to a very tentative start, but obviously at this stage of the game, they're doing so well in that manufacturer's dice now that they don't want to go and upset the apple cart. Even though, as you say, Parker Johnson has taken the lead in the class, obviously till the checkered flag falls, it's not over. And these Buicks are running very strongly this afternoon here at Del Mar. Tommy Kendall in the 12 car coming behind him, GTP car. Tommy Kendall running in 4th spot. Very slow this afternoon. They've obviously got some sort of problem with the car, and they're just chugging on to a finish, and with the terrific attrition rate has brought him up to 4th spot.
Now there is the leader in the Camel Lights class right now, Parker Johnstone, the reigning champion, but he has not pitted. Any moment now, we expect him to duck in and hand over to Dan Marvin. Not this time around, however. Down into turn 1 dives Parker Johnstone, the all-time leader in just about any category you care to mention in Camel Lights. He has truly rewritten the record book. He leads in poles with 27, including a sweep of all 13 Camel Lights poles this season. He's also the all-time leader in victories with 17, and with sweeps of pole, fast lap of the race, and race victory with 13. He does trail his teammate Ruggero Melgrati of Italy in fast laps in Camel Lights, 18-16.
Well, of course, the thing about any car that needs 2 drivers is obviously it's best to get them compatible on size, although we've just seen the last 2 cars, the drivers are the least thing they are. The last thing they were is compatible on size, and of course on driving style and ability. It's no good having one who's a lot slower than the other, and it's no good having drivers who want different things in their car. Some people like a car that inherently understeers, others like the handling to be a bit more neutral or a bit oversteery, and you really need to try and make sure that the 2 drivers have the car set up the same. Of course, at any stage in a long-distance race where people change, it's always very nerve-wracking for the new driver in case he goes and makes a horrible mistake when they're leading.
Parker Johnstone still has a pit stop to make. P.J. Jones is the overall race leader, and we'll be right back. Back at Del Mar, this is Parker Johnstone, the new Camel Lights champion. Once the king and still the king, the defending Camel Lights champion. He is expected to pit any time now. Now, he pitted early in the race, so he does not necessarily need the fuel and tires, but he is in because the rules mandate that he change drivers. Parker Johnstone will get out. Former Del Mar winner Dan Marvin will get in. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Bob Marcia, they have gone over the wall due to the commands of Crew Chief Chris Mellon. The crew is already working on the car. Dan Marvin is being strapped in, and his teammate Parker Johnstone helps him hook himself up to the cockpit. And a very important point here as far as this team's success towards that championship. They feel that their second driver in Dan Marvin is the best of the second-round drivers in Camel Lights competition. If they get down to a tough battle with the checker, they feel they have the upper hand with Dan Marvin behind the wheel.
Well, I'd have to say they're probably right about that. Dan Marvin, as I mentioned, a former winner of this race. Together, he and Parker Johnstone have logged 6 victories. Charles Morgan, presently running 3rd in class, has 2. No other driver in Camel Lights has more than 1. The record for victories in a season in Camel Lights is 8, held by Jim Downing, who did it in 1985, Scott Schubot, a former champion who did it in 85 for Downing, 89 for Scott Schubot, and Parker Johnstone himself last year won 8 times en route to the championship. So now the pride of Berkeley, California, Dan Marvin is on the racetrack in the Comtech Acura. Now the number 44 Buick, being driven by Andy Evans, is just in front of Dan Marvin at this point. And that is the leading car in class. So we'll see if Dan Marvin can run down Andy Evans. Right now, the battle between Buick and Acura for the Camel Lights Manufacturers Championship still hangs in the balance, although things are looking a little better for Acura.
Dan Marvin giving himself plenty of room between his car and the wall there. On this, as I say, on the first lap, it's always such a responsibility when the car and the championship is so important, and you're in the lead. The last thing you want to do as the driver that's just taking over is to go and somehow mess it all up. In fact, he has let Tommy Riggins has caught right up with him. but I'm sure that Dan Marvin will get his self into gear in a minute and get up to rhythm, get up to speed.
Ooh, boy, Tommy Riggins got right over against that pit wall. Is he going to try an underbraking in one? Oh, my goodness.
Both of them being trying to be a bit brave, but on the other hand, doing it carefully. I've never seen a pass quite like that where nothing happened, but everybody was looking pretty macho about it, but nothing actually happened.
There is a lot of experience right there. Dan Marvin and Tommy Riggins know what they're doing. Keep in mind, this could play heavily in the Manufacturers' Championship. Although as long as Acura remains in the top 3 in class, they'll be in pretty good shape. They may only win it by a point, but it looks like they will win it. Tommy Riggins completes the pass on Dan Marvin.
Both drivers displaying a lot of maturity there. Riggins going down the inside, making a good job of that pass.
Parker Johnstone, the new champion, is out of the car, and Ralph Sheen is with him.
We're with Parker Johnstone, who's getting a quick drink of water here. Parker, as a real racer, how difficult has it been for you out there to take a nice, easy pace today?
Well, it was extremely difficult. Fortunately, I was able to follow Charles Morgan in the Scandia car. Charles is a great driver. It makes it real easy to pace. But for the Acura BF Goodrich Complex team, we like to go out and win races. But this Manufacturers Championship is extremely important. So we just backed off, short-shifted the engine, made sure that we got in the corners cleanly, kept out of the way of all the traffic. You know, winning championships is what it's all about. But, boy, we'll be back next year looking to win races.
Is there anything about the handling of the car, the way the engine's been running, that will make you a little nervous as this one winds down?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm extremely frustrated for all the guys at Comtech and Acura and BF Goodrich because we really wanted to give it a run today. The car had the capability. In fact, I accidentally turned a couple of quick laps and got immediately reprimanded by my crew chief. Back off again. I mean, it's a real tribute to Doug Peterson, Donner, Chris Mellon, and all the guys. The car's running fantastic.
Now it's up to Dan Marvin, Henderson.
We talked about the fact that Juan Fangio had a 2-race winning streak here at Del Mar coming in. So does Parker Johnstone. Fangio's out of the race. P.J. Jones leads for the Toyota team. Parker Johnstone may yet get one of those Del Mar hat tricks.
What did he say that car was called again?
I can't do it all in one breath.
I can't either. I don't know, he remembers it, let alone gets it out.
He's a dutiful racing driver. Now, Chris Economaki is standing by with news about the Toyota effort in the pits.
Well, Dan Gurney, despite having a big lead for P.J. Jones, is walking around the pits like a lion in a cage. We asked him, would he take on more gas? And he smiled. He said, yes, just a splash. The story is the car stopped right at halfway. They took on gas, but they want to make sure that it has enough. So they have the edge on the second-place car so that they can afford that pit stop. And here you see him checking his stopwatch now, wondering whether it will all come out just right for Team Toyota. Back to you, Bob.
Certainly in a pretty enviable position because P.J. Jones is just shadowing Davy Jones in the Jaguar, who's just a few yards in front of him. So he's got basically a whole lap, which gives them plenty of time to stop, just put a bit of fuel in and still retain their lead. But any time you stop in the pits, it's always a risk. And that's why Dan Gurney is pacing up and down there like the proverbial cage lion, because anytime you stop, anything can go wrong. You can stall it and then the damn thing won't start again, or just a million things can go wrong. And obviously the more you can keep out of the pits, the better off everybody is.
When you plan a big stop like that, I'm sure a guy like Dan Gurney or the crew chief Howard Moniz will go over and look straight into the eyes of everybody involved in the pit stop and say, okay, we all know what we're doing, right?
Don't we? We all know where we're working next week.
Saw the number 9 Camel Lights car, the red machine of Jim Pace and Tom Hessert, parked along the side of the racetrack. They've been there for some time. Attrition really taking its toll in the concrete canyons of the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Snack time in the Nissan pits. How about that? For the last 4 seasons, Jeff Brabham has redefined the state-of-the-art in Camel GT drivers. This has not been a Brabham kind of year, however, with just one victory to show, that at Miami, Florida, the second race of the season. But he has had consistency, and that kept him in the championship battle until very late in the season. His record speaks volumes about what he and the Nissan team have been able to accomplish in their 5 seasons together. 4 consecutive Camel GT driving championships, 81 top 10 finishes, and 123 starts. He has truly helped lift the Nissan team to the very top levels of sports car racing. Jeff Brabham makes no secrets about it. In his heart, he would like to be an IndyCar driver, as he once was with the Rick Gallus team, for whom Al Unser Jr. now drives. Someday, perhaps, he will get back to the Speedway. but he has certainly made life interesting on the Camel GT trail for the past 4 seasons. Don Devendorf originated this team, founded it, designed and built the car, and drove it for several seasons. But when Kaz Kasner came on board as team manager, he convinced Don, we need an ace behind the wheel. And the man Kaz Kasner wanted was Jeff Brabham.
Well, of course, the man who must be just absolutely kicking himself was Elliot Forbes Robinson, who was their first choice and who did drive it. And then Jeff came along and drove with him. And they were very, very evenly matched. And then they had problems with their tires. And Elliot walked away from it. And he must be just absolutely kicking himself.
There is Jeff Perner, former chief driving instructor at the Road Atlanta circuit near my hometown in Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, Jeff has tried to straighten out some of my bad habits in past years. Right now, he has relieved Frenchman Francois Amigo in this Chevy V8 small block powered machine for Tom Milner Racing.
As you can see, it's got French sponsorship on the car, courtesy of Mr. Migo. But Jeff Perner is really hustling this car around considerably quicker than Francois.
He is in 5th place in the race and a monumental 6 laps down at this point.
Speed he's going at the moment, he probably won't drop many more laps. They lost those laps right at the beginning. They lost 4 laps very, very quickly.
They had a number of pit stops. This is what was once known as an Intrepid. Very much like the car Tommy Kendall is driving. That car known as a Chevrolet GTP. Whoa, Jeff really sliding that around. Tough to do that with a high downforce car.
Well, it's a slowish corner, that's a second gear complex. And when you, well, probably third with the Chevrolet engine, and when you light that 6-litre car up there with a ton of torque, it'll break the tires loose.
Good example of customer car racing in Camel GT competition. This car built by Pratt & Miller Engineering.
Jeff Perner's experience showing itself here. Here's a guy who I've been saying, you know, all afternoon about using the apex and good clipping points. And he really is using all the road. He's coming out as close to the wall as anybody we've seen yet. Ducking around the 48 car.
There is race leader P.J. Jones, number 98, pulling up on one of the Acura Spices. The Spice Company changed hands this year. The American Spice operation has been working with a European company on a brand new sports car, an Allard, reviving that name in sports car racing. It is absolutely phenomenal to look at. Teardrop-shaped fenders over the front wheels. And we may see that car in competition next year.
We may see that car in competition with the aforementioned V10 Honda engine, of course. All will be revealed as the winter unfolds.
Should be a very interesting off-season. The Camel GT schedule for 1993 is in place. Their TV package is in place, and that has done much to quell a certain amount of grumbling between some of the top teams. As we mentioned earlier in the show, this could be the last race around the fairgrounds of Del Mar. The race may go downtown, and Ralph Shaheen has more.
This could be the main straightaway of the 1993 Grand Prix of San Diego. After 6 years of running at the fairgrounds at Del Mar, serious consideration is being given to relocating the race next year to this beautiful downtown San Diego setting. The actual course layout incorporates the area around the new convention center and offers a spectacular view of the marina and San Diego Harbor. The close proximity of first-class hotels and restaurants makes this an even more attractive race type. San Diego has already played host to a number of major sporting events, such as the Super Bowl, Major League Baseball's All-Star Game, and the America's Cup, and views this as another opportunity to showcase America's finest city.
Well, the city of San Diego has identified this as a major event that we can build on. And the visitor industry is very excited, especially in this location, beautiful convention center, the waterfront, and to build this into a signature event for the future.
If things proceed as planned, the speed limit could be raised from 40 miles an hour to 170 miles per hour next Labor Day.
Well, it would certainly be a shorter walk from the hotel if we get to go downtown next year.
It looks like the sort of place where you and I should spend time together.
Camel GT Series will hold its year-end banquet here in the San Diego area. We would be within crawling distance of home.
Absolutely, just an elevator ride away. It's interesting, at the beginning of the race, you know, I said that how important it was for, you know, your last race was the one that everybody remembered, and it was interesting to hear Juan Fangio say exactly the same thing. And this, of course, is going to be a tremendous thing for young P.J. Jones if he should win this race this afternoon, because this will be a race that will go on people's memory. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I mean, they got a long time to think about it, and this kid could come out looking extremely good if he was to win this race this afternoon. However, it ain't over till it's over. So let's give him the race yet.
No matter what happens, the Jones family has a racing dynasty on their hands. PJ could win this race. Younger brother Paige Jones has been doing pretty well in IMSA racing as well. We'll be right back. We're back at Del Mar. This is the second place Jaguar of Davy Jones, who spun the car right at this point on the racetrack, gave up the lead in a long pit stop to P.J. Jones. He is now almost a full lap down, but P.J., keep in mind, must make a pit stop for fuel, as Chris Economaki informed us from the pits. Underneath the number 17 car of Paul Debon. Davy Jones drives off into the setting sun. Now here's the fuel stop for P.J. Meanwhile, the Jaguar is lapping the racetrack as fast as possible. But P.J. is away cleanly, and that may have been Davy Jones's last hope.
P.J. had put on the pressure a little bit, and he was following Davy around, but he had caught him right back. He was just absolutely within spitting distance of Davy when he pulled into the pit, so he had almost a full lap lead on him pulling in, so he should be in very, very good shape.
If the race were to end right now, P.J. Jones would bump Jeff Brabham, currently running third and a lap down from third place in the championship behind Juan Fangio and Davy Jones. In that Camel Lights manufacturers battle that we have not yet resolved, Acura leads Buick, if the race were to end right now, by 3 points. So we are facing a cliffhanger of an ending here at Del Mar as the sun sinks low and the shadows begin to grow long around the Del Mar Fairgrounds. There is Davy Jones. They are about half a lap apart now. Davy closed in some. Spectacularly futuristic car with lots of carbon fiber, lots of Formula One components, and some very interesting telemetry. With more on that, let's get down to the pits and Ralph Shaheen.
If there was ever a day when Davy Jones might be able to make up the gap between him and first place, it is today. And the reason why is due to the weather and the location of this racetrack. A turbo car like the Toyota, it doesn't matter where you are because you can play with the turbo boost and get close to your maximum pressure, what you need. Now, with the Jaguar and the normally aspirated, it all comes down to this Bosch system here. You need to get as close to sea level and get to the maximum high barometric pressure that you can to get that engine to work right. And that is exactly what we have here at Del Mar today. They're watching it all on this screen. Davy Jones has the optimum weather, and his engine is working the best it will all year long.
Drag racers like to call it good air. Right now, that normally aspirated 3.5-liter Formula One bred V8 has got really good air, but it may not be enough.
Well, he's about 41 seconds behind with his perfect engine setup, and there's about 15 minutes to go in this race, thereabouts, so unless something unfortunate should overtake the other Mr. Jones, this Mr. Jones, what we're seeing now, I think he's going to come second.
Right now, P.J. Jones is lapping at an average of over 90 miles an hour, almost 91 miles an hour for the race as it's been constituted thus far. That would be a huge new record for average speed. Fast lap of the race, however, went to his teammate Juan Fangio, the pole sitter, who went out of the race fairly early on, a lap at 95.469 miles an hour. This place may be dangerous, it may have a lot of concrete, it may be slippery, it may be hot, but it is definitely fast.
That nose piece on Davy Jones's car, even though that's the new one, still looks deranged to me. It looks like it's bent on that right-hand corner, doesn't it? We saw the mechanic trying to kick it onto the car, trying to fit it. So maybe it wasn't just, maybe it's not fitting just quite right.
It may have bent the fittings when he nosed it into the wall when he spun. Now there is the Camel Lights leader, Andy Evans, who leads his Buick kudzu teammate Tommy Riggins, 6th and 7th overall in the race, 1st and 2nd in Camel Lights. Behind them, Dan Marvin is 8th overall, 3rd in class.
And And that, of course, leads us to another change in championship points, because Berman Velez is third in the championship at the moment. Dan Marvin is second, and there's 10 points between them, and that won't be enough if they finish like they do at the moment. Berman Velez will assume second place in the Drivers' Championship in the lights division.
And that, of course, makes a big difference when the awards banquet comes around and it's time to get out the check.
The dosh that one stuffs into one's grimy little back pocket. Here we are on board with Andy Evans as he comes into the chicane area. You can see how the sun's getting low. They go from deep shadow to bright light, then back into shadow as they go behind the wall again here. You can see how he's rocking around there. The rev counter there flicking up and down. We can't see what it's reaching up to. But with this engine, it's going to be round about 8,000 RPM down to the gears. It's a second for this first corner. Here he is into the sunshine. You can see how it's distorting through the windscreen there. Into the corner just by the booth. Second gear again. Track getting pretty slippery now. If you get offline here, of course, you'll start to have a lot of pickup. There's a sister car coming up behind him, catching him up.
That gap was 12 seconds. Tommy Riggins is closing up rapidly on Andy Evans. One driver from Jacksonville, Florida is Tommy Riggins. The other driver from Mill Creek, Washington is Andy Evans.
Tommy Riggins that we're looking at now, of course, a very accomplished big sedan car driver.
Here's a look at our running order after 100 laps. We have seen plenty of spills today. Cars nosed into the wall. A number of cars are out of the race. We expected heavy attrition. We have certainly got that. You can see the lights cars climbing up slowly through the field, beginning with the Jim Pace number 9 car. All of these cars are out of the race, including the entire Mazda team. David Tennyson, Jim Downing, whose co-driver Tim McAdam had a couple of spins early on.
And I think one of those spins damaged the car enough that we had that other third spin that we saw.
Andy Evans continues on his way. The gap to the second place car is down to less than 2 seconds. We'll be back. Fangio took pole for today's Camel GT finale. He dropped out early, but it has been a spectacular year nonetheless. By far the winningest driver in the series this year, with a kind of consistency that almost inevitably leads to championships. Dan Gurney discovered Juan Fangio, if you will, when he watched him blow away the likes of Emerson Fittipaldi in a celebrity sedan race on the streets of Miami, Florida, just a few short seasons ago. Now, with 14 career Camel GT wins in the last season, Juan Fangio II is definitely on the fast track to superstardom. There is Dan Gurney watching the other man he handpicked for his Toyota All-American Racers GTP team, this man, P.J. Jones, who leads this race by more than half a minute, has made the final splash pit stop for fuel that he needed, and now is on his way to perhaps his second victory of the season. He has absolutely dominated this race since taking over from Davy Jones in the Jaguar. Right now, Jones is in second place, and they are the only 2 cars on the lead lap. 1 lap down in third is Jeff Brabham, and then 6 laps down, Tommy Kendall in fourth, Jeff Perner in fifth, then the Camel Lights leaders, Andy Evans and Tommy Riggins and Dan Marvin, running in consecutive positions. Jones' father Parnelli is here. Younger brother Paige Jones, who won one of the support races for this weekend's Grand Prix. We're going to be hearing about the Jones boys.
Certainly a good weekend for the Jones boys. That's for dead sure.
Just a few minutes remaining in the Grand Prix of San Diego. There is Andy Evans from Washington. Just ahead of him is one of the Acura Spices. That might be, in fact, I would almost guarantee that it's Wayne Taylor in the number 48 car.
Tommy Riggins was catching up with Andy Evans quite satisfactorily and very handily, but I think that Andy Evans must have responded to the challenge and has obviously got himself together and has picked up some speed. And Tommy Riggins is no longer really challenging. At one stage, it looked like he was going to be able to get by him relatively easy. There's the 48 car of Wayne Taylor, which is well down the field at the moment.
Tommy Riggins hasn't had a bad season since being brought on board in the 3rd race of the year to help support Charles Morgan's efforts. He has been 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 4th, and 1st. And he'll make no bones about it. His heart is still with stock car racing. This isn't a bad way to make a living either.
Just right now, any way to make a good living is a good way to make a living.
Recessionary times worldwide have certainly taken their toll. There's been much discussion this weekend about how IMSA and Camel GT Racing might benefit from the decision of the world governing body, the FISA in Paris, that there will be no World Sports Car Championship in 1993 due to a lack of entries. Of course, the formula for sports car racing worldwide changed in recent years to accommodate 3.5-liter normally aspirated engines. There's a lot of turbocharged Porsches and the like out around the world that would be right at home in the Camel GT.
But of course, 44, number 2, Davy going through the traffic there.
That allowed Tommy Riggins to close right up on Andy Evans. Now Dan Marvin has to watch out. Here comes Davy.
Davy goes round. Is that Dan Marvin or is that Wayne Taylor?
That's Wayne Taylor, I beg your pardon.
It's Wayne Taylor into the chicane. So Wayne Taylor's now going to fight off. Andy Evans is right behind him, and right behind him is Tommy Riggins. So this is going to be a fairly interesting little complex here with these Indy Lights, with these Camel Lights guys, as they go into the turn 1, all over each other.
Tommy Riggins goes down the outside. Pretty wide line there.
Andy Evans, that didn't work. Andy Evans still behind Wayne Taylor in the Acura engine spice. Obviously, Wayne driving very much, as Peterson has already said, Doug Peterson and Parker Johnson, 2 team orders not to overstretch it.
2 Buicks lead Camel Light, followed by 2 Acuras. Not enough for Buick to win. Back at Del Mar, where the battle on the racetrack is in the Camel Lights class. There's the 44 of Andy Evans. Just behind him, his teammate Tommy Riggins. Just ahead of them, the Acura of Wayne Taylor. Taylor about to be lapped by the race leader Evans in class.
Andy Evans, of course, does not want Tommy Riggins to overtake him, even though they are like a sister car, because that would definitely not help his teammate Herman Velez to try and get that 2nd spot away from Dan Marvin in the Drivers' Championship. Dan Marvin driving the 49 car.
That's what it looks like from Andy Evans' seat. I wonder if Wayne Taylor is kind of holding up the procession.
I think he is definitely holding it up. And of course, Andy Evans is trying to get around Wayne Taylor in the red and white car in front of him, and also trying to block Tommy Riggins from getting around him. Don't try it there. It's not a good spot. And going through it all the way with about 3 laps to go.
Tommy Riggins has really got his foot in it. You saw the tail break out on the 3rd place, or 3rd car in line, 2nd place in the class on the racetrack.
Wayne Taylor seems to pull away a little bit here. Tommy Riggins going down the inside of the chicane. Very close to the end of this race. Tommy Riggins wants that Camel Light win.
Rocketing across the start-finish line. And now we'll have more traffic. Just up ahead is David Roca from San Antonio, Texas, and yet another Camel Lights car.
Now all it needs is the leaders to come rushing through and really get mixed up with this lot.
Oh, down the inside and rubbing up against Wayne Taylor's machine, and then Andy Evans boots him from behind. Something flapping loose on the left side of the car now.
Andy Evans taking a strategic position in the middle of the road here, sort of looking for a way to go around Wayne Taylor, but at the same time Tommy Riggins is trying to get around him. Meanwhile, they're now all being held up by, as you said, David Roca.
Now we are being told this will be the last lap for the race leader, P.J. Jones, as this battle continues in Camel Lights. There is P.J. at the very far corner of the racetrack. He'll come down this long sweeping left-hander with a hop right in the middle of it. And hard braking for the chicane. The checkered flag is in the hands of IMSA flagman Jim Sidley. I didn't say he was going to wave it. I just said he has it in his hands.
Good one. Good one. That's good. I like that.
This is a timed race, so we do not know exactly how many laps it will go. And if you think it's difficult for us to call a race that way, you can imagine what it must be like being in the pits. If I were Dan Gurney, I'd be walking up and down too.
Well, now, there's the lights battle, and right behind them is the leader. There's the 98 car coming into the picture. So in a minute, he's going to join into this. Ken Squire has a word for it, which I won't use just right at the moment. But this is heading to be one of those Ken Squireisms.
Notice that third car in line right there. That is Dan Marvin, the third place car in Camel Lights. Here comes the overall race leader, P.J. Jones, heading for the barn. And we could see
yellow
some
flags
action.
out. What's happened? We lost one of these guys?
Well, that car of Tom Hessert was still parked out there.
Where's? Yeah, they're all there.
This is for position. The blue 44 is first in class, the white 45 is second, and the white and orange 49 is third. That's all the position that Dan Marvin will need in order to help Acura clinch the Manufacturers' Championship in Camel Light. Here comes the race leader, P.J. Jones, and now the checkered flag waves. Jones picks up his second career Camel GT victory, his second of the season. A spectacular heady drive.
These guys, of course, are going to finish.
These guys have still got half a lap to go.
And now they've caught up with another one of the slower cars.
Now note, the number 49 Acura has gotten around Tommy Riggins. He is up to second in class as Dan Marvin. He's going for the class victory. He's going to look inside Andy Evans. Wayne Taylor, his teammate, is just ahead of him. Oh, and Wayne Taylor, I think, took a battle. There goes Tommy Riggins underneath Dan Marvin. Push has come to shove. The nose comes off one of the cars. That's off of Tommy Riggins' machine. 44 right there is the class leader. That little contretemps with Tommy Riggins may be all that it took to prevent Dan Marvin from taking him for the win. That will go to Andy Evans and teammate Fermin Velez, but Acura will win the fourth and final trophy in the Camel GT season for the Camel Lights manufacturers. There is Andy Evans on board. No doubt a very relieved man.
I wonder if Wayne Taylor in that 48 Acura Spice, I wonder if he thought that he was somehow racing for a position.
And there is the overall race winner, P.J. Jones, making his way into a delighted Toyota pit. The entire Jones family, including Father Parnelli and Brother Page, who won his own race this weekend, on hand. What a racing day. Dan Gurney, who clinched the GTO sedan title in IMSA Racing a few years ago here at Del Mar, now has the GTP crown that Toyota wanted, and they picked the right guy to go help them get it. All right. We'll be back to chat with PJ when we return to the Del Mar Fairgrounds after a most interesting wind-up to the Camel GT season. Stay with us. We are back at Del Mar, where we're used to dramatic finishes, but nothing like what we have seen today. Our winner is in victory lane, and Chris Economaki is with him.
Well, here's the fastest of the Jones boys. Congratulations, BJ. We know you're happy, but are you surprised?
Well, you know, I knew that this race had, you know, the turnouts in this race before have not always gone to the guy leading at the very beginning. So my guys kept reminding me of that, and I was just trying to take care of my tires, take care of my car, because it's rough, it's hard work out there, and you know, I just bought my time early in the race, and everything came our way. You know, it's just the opposite of what happened last weekend. We were leading the race and had bad luck, and this weekend we were set there about second and third, and the race came to us. So, you know, it was a good day for Toyota. It was a good day for the Joneses. Page won the Barber Saab race today, so it's a good way to finish off the season.
Did things change for you when Fangio went out?
Well, you know, that was early in the race. You know, we were all real close together. You know, I don't think there was more than a 10-second spread, and you know, it definitely made it easier. Juan's always a tough competitor, and it would have been tough to get by him. You know, Davey was running strong too, and I think we were coming down to having a good race at the end.
Quickly, how are you going to celebrate?
Well, we're just going to have a party after this one. After we won the manufacturers and Juan drove the Drivers' Championship, I think we're going to have a hell of a party.
There you go.
Well, I'll bet they're going to have a party. Here are our final results. I said it was dramatic. P.J. Jones wins at an average race speed of 90.397 miles an hour, a new race record. But we saw Davy Jones's Jaguar parked by the side of the road. He was passed by Jeff Brabham for second place. Ironically, that prevents P.J. Jones from overtaking Brabham for third place in the championship. Davy Jones finishes third, followed by Tom Kendall and Jeff Perner. 6th through 11th or 10th, Andy Evans in the first Camel Lights car. That dramatic confrontation between Dan Marvin and Tommy Riggins on the last lap went to Marvin in 7th, Riggins 8th, Mario Heighton of Switzerland 9th, and in 10th position, Wayne Taylor. 11th through 15th, Paul Devon, David Roca finished 12th. Jim Pace leads those cars that dropped out of the race, John Paul Jr. and Pete Halsmer in 15th. Jim Downing, David Tennyson, Price Cobb, and Juan Fangio, our pole sitter, the first car out of the race. Now let's find out more about that dramatic finish from Davy Jones's perspective. He's with Ralph Shaheen.
Davy, a bit of a perplexing finish for you today. What happened in the car?
Well, you know, I knew it was going to be a race early on between Juan and myself, and you know, he made an early pit stop, so I don't know if he was light on fuel, but everything was going real well. I had good control of the race, and I think I just got a little wide over in the dirty area under braking, and the rear just locked up, and it spun me around, so I had to make a pit stop to change the nose. From there, you know, it was just trying to set a pace, and you know, I was in second and just trying to make up whatever time I could, and I think I broke the clutch in the end. So it's been disappointing for the whole Bud Light Jaguar team, but you know, we're all racers and we try hard, and you know, it's the end of the season, so we get to start with a new clean sheet of paper next year, and you know, for behalf of Bud Light and Jaguar, we want to thank everybody for watching the race on ESPN.
For Davy Jones, a car that started off as the most dominating machine survives a finish in third.
All right, thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Davy. It was a costly finish for Davy Jones. We'll give you a look at the final points in the season. Juan Fangio, of course, is the driver's champion. Finishing in second place is Davy Jones. But because Jones was unable to finish this race, Jeff Brabham will finish third in points, P.J. Jones fourth. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Toyota clinched the title 2 races ago, but because the Jaguar was unable to finish, Nissan finishes second in the championship. Jaguar finishes third. Plenty more still to talk about here from Del Mar. We'll be back to talk with our Camel Lights winners in just a moment. The final event of the IMSA Camel GT season 1992 has come to a conclusion. Juan Fangio and Parker Johnstone are the drivers' champions, but you can bet everyone will be celebrating tonight. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Vons Grand Prix of San Diego has been brought to you by Nissan. We build more into every car and truck we make. Nissan, it's time to expect more from a car. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Norwegian Cruise Line. Elegant? Yes. Stuffy? Never.